Hey everyone, welcome to the show. It's great to have you all here again. We're doing a special stream tonight. We were given an advanced copy of a very popular Indiegogo campaign, Shadow of the Conqueror, which was written by a very large YouTube channel, SHADIVERSITY. Shad Brooks is the curator of that channel, and this is an adaptation of his work by Mike S. Miller. So in many regards, this is Mike's book. He's running the campaign, and this is all based on his art and his adaptation, but clearly inspired by the works of Shad. So we're going to be discussing that dichotomy a little bit. All of us have read the book, myself included. So look forward to that, where I actually get to participate in the review for once. And not just ask vague generalities and encourage spoilers. This is going to be a spoiler-free review. So for those of you who don't want to know a whole lot about the book before backing, this is a great review for you. And to get a sense exactly of what the quality of the material is before you commit to actually supporting Mike and Shad in this project. What I wanted to point out, though, is that despite this being a really successful campaign, it's already at 200K. Mike was willing to give an advanced review copy, not to a mainstream review channel on YouTube, but to a small independent channel like this one, which is really good and sincere. Shows a lot of integrity on Mike's part that he's supporting this independent space. And not waiting for success to drive them right back into the hands of the mainstream, but staying firmly grounded here and encouraging these smaller formats to grow. So kudos to Mike for doing that. We sincerely appreciate it. We will still maintain the standards that we hold on this channel and give it an honest overview, and all the feedback will be sincere. There's no fluff reviews here, but thank you again very much to Mike and to Shad for giving us the opportunity to have the advanced copy and advanced review of this work. So look forward to it being fulfilled. The book is done. The crowdfund is all the money that's going to be raised before it goes to print, and you should expect to have it maybe before the end of the year. So that's really amazing. And all of you should look forward to that. Let's check into the chat and see who we have here joining us, and looking forward to getting some advanced opinions on this work. We've got Jack Stafford. Ahoy, conquering ninjas. Ahoy, Jack. Thank you very much for being here. We also have Jack dropping the link, so do appreciate that very much. We have on the panel and in the chat, John De La Rose. He says, give me the link, save the stream. All right, so let's not delay things too long, since this is going to be a different format for this review. Let's just bring on the entire panel, and we won't worry about introductions too extensively. We have Twitless.
Hey.
Atsy.
Hey, guys.
And, of course, JDA HD.
Hi.
Not that.
He's trying to match our energy levels tonight. Guys.
Yeah, he should be JDA Lo-Fi.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, guys.
Greetings, my friends. Thank you for hanging out to talk about my comic books. Well, so with that out of the way, that is the tempo of the show. We do PBS style long format discussions, and we try to go into as many details as possible. However, this being a spoiler-free review, we're not going to give away too much, but we will give you a very solid impression of the work before you make your final backing decision. In anticipation of that, here is the campaign. $203,000, 1,795 backers for a work that didn't receive much promotion at all. Shad has been making the rounds, going on some of the larger YouTube channels.
Well, when you say he hasn't not much promotion, he's been on Friday Night Tides twice.
So I mean, he's been making the rounds, and he is.
He didn't do a lot of advanced promotion.
Yeah, right. He is discussing this project now that it's up on a lot of the larger YouTube channels. But On his channel, there was no advance anticipation or build-up for it. He just had a video that was released on the day when the campaign was released. I think it raised about $80,000 in the first 24 hours. And since then, it's just been appearances that have been driving it. So, yeah.
And he was on Ricada too, right?
He was on Ricada. He was on
Yeah,
Friday
that's
Night
right.
Tights. I believe he's on Flashcast today. So
I've got Flashcast booted up. That's why that's where everybody else is who's not watching this right now.
Yeah.
He's not on right now, but I hear he might be on. So
yeah,
Yeah.
they're missing out because this is where they're actually going to learn about the book. So
why would you watch that and Umbrella Guy and Raging Golden Eagle and Ricada when you could watch well-read reviews? Hit the like and subscribe button.
Yeah, this is. Can we just? Yeah, can we give some props to the indie review channel over here? I like how you used indie as a euphemism for the slums. Like those mainstream review channels, forget about them. Stick with the indies.
Who's got
way
a
down
mainstream
here.
review channel? Me?
No,
Yeah.
Does that count?
No,
Yeah,
mainstream
kind of, yeah.
mainstream review channels are. I don't want to give any names, but they get views in the tens of thousands, and they mainly focus on mainstream comics. They don't really touch the indies at all.
Yeah, they suck.
Yeah, they'll dip their toes occasionally as like an act of charity, but for the most part, they're just talking weekly releases, what was on the newsstand, and what sucks and what's great.
Yeah, if Keanu Reeves has a book, they'll talk about that. But
Exactly. Yeah. So we don't do that here. We don't pay attention to the weekly release schedule of the mainstream. We are focused on.
We
the
tried
top
once.
ones.
It was a terrible experience.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
I
but
think
for
I
the
was
most
here for
part-
that X-Men one, right? Yeah. Or is
We
that
never
the one you're talking
finished.
about?
Yeah, we never finished. We should wrap that one up. I would like to, but we did an extensive one.
Oh my
on
God, well read.
Superman.
So I read that and actually liked that House of X, Power of X. Like when I read the whole thing, I was like, oh, this is good. So then I got like the Hickman Omnibus. And then I was looking at it and I'm like, oh, this is all interconnected. So it's like you got like 10 different hardcovers you have to get in order to get like the whole story basically. And so then I started reading through all of them and it's like it is a big cluster and it's terrible and nothing happens. And it's just like
Hickman's really.
and it's like, oh man, it's awful.
I know
Well, that's why we don't focus on the mainstream
Yes.
here, is because it all goes, FUBAR essentially. Editorial takes over, so we're all about the indies here. And Shad is definitely of the indies. He's not a widely published author, but he has a large YouTube channel and started publishing his own works. And Mike convinced him to do this project as an adaptation graphic
Shad comes
novel.
from what I call Swords YouTube, which is a segment that contains things of like Matt Easton of Scala Gladiatoria, Lindy Beige, and the types of like medieval scholars who will, take the they'll make videos they'll like analyze the armor on Game of Thrones and use real physics and medieval knowledge to break down whether or not it would work in the context. Yeah.
Like, can you actually slice an arrow in the air in half with a long sword or something?
It's a really good segment of YouTube. I do recommend it. It is pretty medieval nerdy. So if you're into that, definitely check those guys out.
Yeah, so the interest that he generates for this project is organic. It's not mainstream characters drawing you in. It's all people who are into this genre and would love to see a story about it. And I guess starting in a little bit on the review, the genre is pretty unique. So it's Victorian era futurist with magic. Is that a fair statement about
maybe a little Renaissance in there?
It's a little more fantasy-ish than Victorian era, I feel like.
I wouldn't call it. Yeah, I wouldn't call it futurist.
Yeah.
Well, there's flying ships in it,
right? But they're
airships have always kind of been like a fantasy trope, though. Yeah. Like for even in medieval fantasy, like for some reason, it's like they got swords and airships. It's just kind of a thing.
This is very much in the Brandon Sanderson. I feel like Shad is a fan of Brandon Sanderson.
Big time he is. If you look at his backdrop, he's got leather-bound Brandon Sanderson books behind him.
Is it? Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Brandon Sanderson is the type of guy who takes the idea of fantasy and he creates a sort of pseudoscience to it where you can understand these fantasy principles down to a science. And once you understand that, you can kind of like really get invested in how the world works from a, like I said, a physics, speculative fiction physics perspective. And Shad, if you watch a bunch of his videos, he's big into the physics of how things work. So that's.
Is this alchemy and astrology level physics or physics?
No, it's more like it's like more like that. So like Brandon Sanderson's like novels that I like is the Mistborn trilogy. And like, so there's magic to it, but like the magic is that they ingest metals, and then those metals do certain things magically when you ingest them. And so in that,
but
world.
It's based on the rules of attraction and repulsion. So he's using this under something that you could understand, which is attraction and repulsion. He then puts that into a magical context. Right. Yeah, exactly. And then you can kind of like go, oh, okay, well this metal would do this magically, but you can kind of analogically make predictions based on how things should work in that world.
Some of it like makes you light, pushes you off the ground so you can kind of fly or leap tall buildings or whatever. Some of it makes you super strong, it just kind of gives those typical powers, but it gives definition to like how they work kind of. And so Shad actually kind of does that with his magic system also. He's got a very, and that's actually, I've actually seen it as a criticism of his novel, is that it's too much like a Brandon Sanderson magic system. Like it's like he lifted it. That's what people have said. I don't mind it. I don't, I'm not a person who's that dorky about this. So I'm just like, oh, that's pretty cool the way the magic works. And that's kind of my view of it. But I have seen that as a criticism of this world.
Well, so he does use that system liberally as well throughout this work. And I guess all of you are familiar with it. So I guess that's the first thing I'd probably like to get at is how do we feel that this particular piece fits into that genre? I mean, JD, you already mentioned that you don't feel like it's that original, maybe a little derivative, but for
it's fine. Reviewers. No, I love it. I didn't say that. I said that I've seen criticisms.
Criticism.
I actually,
sure. Okay,
I really thought genre wise, I thought he nailed it. So yeah.
So I think what's interesting about this work is the fact that because it is an adaptation of Shad's work, there's almost like two conversations you can have, which is the conversation about what Shad is doing and the conversation about what Mike is doing. Because from what I understand, Shad wrote the original novel, obviously. But then when I asked Mike about how the scripting process worked, Mike said that he basically read the novel and then Mike wrote the script for the comic, and then Shad went in and edited the script. And so this is very much, as a comic, written by Mike. It's very much a creation of his from the comic book perspective. So there's
wow.
So judging this work, evaluating this work is very interesting because of those two layers. So I'm just going to get this out of the way. Before we get into the actual comic, because obviously we need to talk about the comic. I read the first 3 chapters of Shadow of the Conqueror, and Shad has some very interesting concepts, and there are some strengths to his work, I think. And I did not personally, I wasn't bothered by the Brandon Sanderson type magic system, but I do have to say this, Shad has some deep flaws as a writer himself. Very deep
that you picked up on in the novel.
The novel. All right. So that is a separate conversation, very much so, from the comic. So when I first entered into this conversation, I thought my journey was going to be talking about the problems of adapting a comic from a prose work, and the fact that there's a lot of anxiety about how comics are seen as being like training wheels for prose. And that is an issue for some comics. But when I read Shad's work, and I was like, oh wow, I'm having some real issues here. Here's the fascinating bit. Mike fixes a lot of the problems that I had with Shad's writing when he repackages and reinterprets this as a comic, which reveals something very interesting about Shad's writing, which is, I think, the fact that Shad writes kind of with a comic book sensibility. And in prose, it doesn't work nearly as well. But when Mike is able to take that and translate it into a comic, it actually works way better. So it was very fascinating to process that.
That's interesting because having not read from his novel, I felt like this was an adaptation from a novel. It didn't feel like a fresh start as a comic because of there's so much like you see in this opening page. There's so much introspection and inner monologue, and
There's a lot of backstory at the very beginning. Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of it's not like telling rather than showing, but a lot of the stuff that you have to do in a good novel where you're just explaining in the inner monologue
So
what this character's backstory is, and there's a lot of that in this.
that is a weakness that I did notice in Shad's writing in the novel, was that there was more telling than showing when in certain spots. What Mike has done here is he has actually cut that and restructured it so that he can kind of flow the action better. Because in the novel, it takes like about 3 chapters to get to this point that we have right here.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't read the novel, but
So Mike is restructuring things to work with the flow of a comic. And so the flashbacks that we get throughout the comic, a bunch of those were kind of more linearly presented in the novel.
Oh, interesting. So he chose to do you're probably wondering how I got here, standing on the edge of this continent.
yes.
Yeah.
So here's the thing.
Typical comic comic
scratch.
start. Yep.
In medias res.
They do that so much in comics. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Which
kind of
it
just
works here.
drop you into an ongoing situation. Yeah.
Now, what it doesn't do, by the way, whereas a lot of comics like get structured, and I kind of hate when I read a comic and it's like, you start out and She-Hulk's about to get killed, and it's exactly that. You probably wonder how I got here, and then you flip the page and it goes 2 days earlier, and then you read the whole comic to get back to that point, and then she doesn't actually die, right? It really bothers me when comics do that. When this one did this and it has the flashbacks, those are just flashbacks to define the world. They're not actually defining so much how he got to this point. This is the true starting point where he actually goes on a different adventure and starts a different journey as a character.
That's fair.
That gets done through this. So Mike actually did a little more interesting of a job with formatting it this way than I've seen in a lot of comics.
It's more complex.
Yeah.
It was definitely a deliberate choice of how he decides to present that material, because the novel doesn't present it that way. So I, again, full credit to him, and a lot of the flaws that I personally detected in Shad's writing were able to be assuaged a bit by how Mike is pulling things together. So I was actually remarkably pleasantly surprised and impressed at how that works.
So this is the first volume over a 4-volume series, and Mike, as you mentioned, he adapted that entire work here. And what was interesting is he managed to do a 3-arc story that was self-encapsulated. It had a nice beginning and closure, I thought, at the end. And he's mentioned he did have to introduce a lot of things to make that work. So there's definitely a lot of Mike, as everybody has mentioned, in this effort. Where it opens up, though, going through a lot of the establishing elements, I mean, did it feel like there should have been maybe more time spent on some of that backstory before he got into just focusing on this main character, which is really what the first issue is mostly about?
No, he went over the backstory just enough, because I think if it would have went more, it would have slowed the story down to the point where you would have been like, okay, what's gonna happen? When's this gonna start? But he did a few pages of it basically, and it worked well.
He uses what I would almost deem a flash spread a couple of times, where he uses a double page spread to kind of like go through a historical moment, where he's able to artistically and even arranging it be like, okay, so you're very much able to process, okay, this is like a flashback kind of, but it's also kind of operating on a metaphorical level, and he's able to do some creative things. He does a couple of those to kind of really catch you up with what you need, so that he can kind of jump into what this character's arc is going to be.
I guess without getting into specifics then, so what kind of story is it actually telling? This character's arc You know, he's definitely a fixture of history within the context of this story. But his progression throughout the story, to me, felt like a bit of a redemption. And that seemed to be a lot of the focus throughout the entire story. But it was still couched in a lot of the adventure and action that takes place within the series. So what kind of story is exactly Shadow of the Conqueror? Character study, adventure? Anyone is free to jump in.
I'd say it's you've got the redemption story there, but it's definitely going to be it just starts, but it's going to be an action adventure fantasy.
Yeah.
And I feel like once you get into 2, 3, and 4, I haven't read the novel, but I feel like once you like, this is definitely, here's the introduction and all the backstory you need, and here's a minor conflict we're going to quickly resolve, so that you are interested in this. And I feel like it's really going to get going into in book 2 and go through book 4. It doesn't feel like a complete story on that level, but it feels like a first issue, so.
It's definitely I would definitely go with adventure. It's intended to be a redemption story. I would say that one of my criticisms about the comic and Shad's writing, probably one of the largest flaws, if you think about it, is the main character, who is Dalen here. I was not given enough to really feel invested in him as a redemptive character. And so we're told that he has a lot of guilt. We're told that he feels very bad about things that he's done, and that he's going to go on this redemptive quest. But it's not communicated well enough to really sell me on it. So it's that was a rough thing, and so he kind of comes across as a bit of just a jerk who is also has a list of sins, which makes it hard to get invested when his life is threatened, because you're like, this guy's a jerk who's also a horrible person. I guess I kind of want him to die, don't I? So that's something that I've seen as a common criticism, I think, of the character in reviews of the novel as well.
Well, you almost kind of get for me, I almost kind of felt like there were two. I guess does this break down into 2 chapters for this issue? There's kind of like a break about halfway through where we almost kind of get an origin story again, and we almost kind of get his redemption arc reinstated again.
It's very much written in the vein. I alluded to this earlier. Shad seems to be very influenced by the kind of He-Man comic book origin thing, and so we get that moment where he's really kind of having like a superhero origin moment, where he basically outlines what his mission in the world is going to be, like a superhero would, and he's been given abilities with which he can interact with the world, basically kind of superpowers, if you think about it.
Yeah. I almost thought it's funny you guys are here, because I was thinking about it almost felt like a Spider-Man origin story, where he's like, wait a minute, I can climb these walls.
Well, that's a good point. Yeah,
most definitely. Yeah.
He's
and maybe that was intentional. Mike might have been tipping his hat a little bit to us by or some of his readership by some of the panels that he did. But there's his powers, and that's like the first half, and then the second half, very separate and distinct from that, is what goes on in this house in the background of this page, and the magical items that are the focus of what gives him the special abilities as the protagonist. It's all about these items. It's about the sword. It's about what kinds of items he's made. Well, I can't. I'm probably already going too far, but it's not really about his the alchemical in himself type powers, which is what the first half is. So it was a little funny to me. It didn't feel as fluid. There's some situational reasons why the second house has a lot to do. I mean, the second half has a lot to do with, it's just a different scenario going on. So there's a lot of reasons why it's going to feel like there's kind of two halves to the story, at least to me. And part of that has to do with whether or not you're talking about swords or whether or not you're talking about being able to climb walls.
So I feel like as sequential storytelling, I think Mike's in top form here in a lot of ways. I think the biggest criticism I have regarding the storytelling from a sequential storytelling standpoint would be, I think this comic needed 4 extra pages. There's a moment where there's even
not too specific.
No
spoilers.
No, there isn't. This isn't a spoiler. It's literally there's a caption that ends up saying like a day later, and you don't want to imply to your reader that they are missing something. And we go from one scene to another scene that's very different, and there seems to be a gap where we're missing just like stuff to give us context for that scene. I'm not giving any particulars about what the scene is. I'm just saying that, like, I just remember reading it and going, I feel like I'm missing something here. And that happens.
I think that was fine. That's a pacing choice, I feel like, because I feel like if that extended in there, I think it would have been too slow. So I think I personally would keep it the way it is. Yeah.
Are you thinking of the back alley scene? Like that's
the one. I feel like I needed like maybe even a couple panels. Because to me, the issue I've got is this: if you are an adaptation, if you give the impression to your reader that they are missing material, I feel like that starts breaking down the storytelling pact you have with your audience, because they go, oh, well, I guess I should read something else then to fill in this gap.
Which is tricky because like he didn't write the novel, so like how much permission does he have to, like, it's almost like can you simplify every scene so that it works in this visual format? Sometimes you're better off writing a different scene, and yet you can't really do that with an adaptation from Shad, so like that's a really tricky
well, that's when I know that's when I noticed it. So I was like, it was like a moment like that, and I was like, you know what, we could probably deal with an extra page. And the other things that I thought Mike could use an extra page are the world building here is pretty good and interesting, but it's a clunky in a couple spots where I feel like some readers may get lost in how things are supposed. So that Brandon Sanderson alchemy, how does this work exactly? And the novel goes way too in depth at points where it feels like you're just getting a physics lecture. But the graphic novel, I think, almost cut too much, where I feel like some readers might be like, I don't know how these things work, and so I'm feeling confused. So I'm like, I feel like one or two, go from 48 to 52 pages, maybe smooth over a couple of those bumps, would be my criticism there. But your mileage may vary.
Well, and JDA brought up pacing, though maybe some of those cuts seem to be justified in terms of keeping the reader enthralled. What I noticed is that there was a lot of dialogue in the story, and
there was. And I'm usually like, when I see a lot of dialogue on a page, I'm one of the first people to be like, eyes glaze over. I don't want to deal with this. And I think Mike actually managed to keep that interesting even when there was a lot of dialogue on the page.
You're not a fan of Grant Morrison, then, are you?
Oh, I freaking hate Grant Morrison. Yeah,
I dug it. Like
crazy.
The dialogue felt like things people could and would actually say, and it didn't feel they weren't speaking like in a literary register where it just
Nothing
felt
clunky. Even those pages where it was backstory, where it was explaining the history, like I found myself interested enough in the history where I was good.
That's another spot where I think Mike actually I think improved from the core work here that he was adapting from, because in the novel when you read the dialogue, it was hard to get through at times. Shad's register in prose does not work nearly as well as it does work in graphic novel format. And like I said, I think it's because Shad's writing is he kind of writes like a comic book person. So it's very interesting, because when I read the graphic novel, I was like, oh, this dialogue actually works a lot better when Mike has kind of like taken it and put it, made a few tweaks into the graphic novel format. But in prose, it was a little painful.
And as a comic book, you mentioned that maybe the Twitless didn't have enough characterization, but it was also perhaps the magnitude of the conflict, which JDA mentioned might have been relatively minor. but sufficient and satisfactory enough for the comic book format. I mean, how much depth would you have needed really for Spider-Man to really be interested in his first few adventures? And maybe Mike wanted to approach that with a lighter hand as well to maintain that comic book appeal.
It's more like about how you choose to characterize your character. When you have a character, I'll like Dickensian. If we pull from Dickens, right? Ebenezer Scrooge is about as evil as you can get, and you want to he's so evil. You want to see something you want to see him be humbled. You want something to happen to him, but he goes through what he goes through, and you get to see enough of like what he's dealing with in his past to give you a little bit of interest in seeing him change. You get invested in wanting to see him change. Here, it's mostly because of how he comes across as a pompous jerk that it makes it very difficult to be like, I'm invested in seeing you change. Because on top of him being a villain who needs to be redeemed, there's this added layer of him being kind of insufferable. And I think that's what's not resonating for me.
What did you think, JDA? Were you invested in the character and interested in his redemption throughout the story?
Yeah, I didn't find him to be as insufferable as Twit listed, I guess. I don't know. I haven't read the novel, so maybe I'm coloring it a little differently. But I was like, yeah, I'm interested in this. So, and I'm definitely I want the next installment. Like I was like, oh crap, it's over. And that's always a good sign.
How did you think Mike also balanced the number of characters introduced in this first issue? Was it a good mixture, and each character that was focused on felt integral to the story?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, there's I mean, what he's doing is he's letting you know that this character has a history that spans well, I don't know if I can say that, but he's got a lot of history with people, and I guess that's going to be a well that he's going to draw from with every subsequent issue of over the lifetime of this character's journey. That he's already opened up the door to almost too much of what this character's gone through. So you can expect that more pieces of that puzzle are just gonna. I guess he's just going to be lining things up for issues 2, 3, and 4. But so it's probably supposed to feel a little too wide and expansive with how many kind of characters that are going to show up. At least, it's particularly in the first half. Again, like there's a first half, second half feel for me. Like I kind of liked the second half more, where it was just
I did too.
One antagonist, Yeah, and in the second half, even he feels kind of
why. Once it, I mean, and that connects you more to the character, because the first half is a lot of exposition about like the old world and how it got to this point. So it's like the second half is much more connecting to the character, like you said. So
can we talk about this page that you have pulled up though? This page here made me actually envious of the people who will get to hold the physical copy. This is one of those double page spreads that I told you about, where it's like, you get a lot of exposition and past in a very artistic spread. And so in the version that we got, those spreads were kind of, presented as single pages. But those of you who will get the print copy, you'll be able to see this in its full glory as one double page spread, from left to right, communicating not just the history of this world and of the main character, but also presenting it with deliberate symbolic crafting. As you see, you can kind of see it in the bottom right hand quadrant there, where the people's feet kind of like looming over that other scene, and how those things are being contrasted and played with each other. So the composition of that is something that I was like, oh, I really wish I had that double page spread in front of me. So
yeah, I noticed that Mike actually used the splash pages liberally throughout this work, and I think the in-hand experience with the physical copy is going to be quite thrilling with what's been shown here in the digital format. I also actually liked that he used earlier on, there was more gore than I would expect in this kind of story, and I actually, for me, I enjoy that aspect of it. There's a realness and a grittiness to it when he adds pieces like that to it.
I actually like, personally, I prefer Mike when he's dealing with this type of world. I actually like him doing fantasy more than him doing superheroes, because a
I do
fantasy
too.
world.
Have you read his Game of Thrones stuff that he's done?
I have not.
It's fantastic.
I could see like what he's done there. I think he's definitely like some of the strategies he's probably refined there. He's probably pulling here, but like scenes like this in a superhero world, like when he did some of this stuff in Injustice, it just doesn't hit very well for me. But when it's so natural for a grittier fantasy world. It's a very natural fit.
Yeah, and yet, like what was showing up to me like was how much this did feel like a big two experienced artist was coming in to the fantasy world, because of the like the jumping at you kind of dynamism of a lot of these characters. Like he knows how to like assemble the team of antagonists where everyone's like pulling back their fists ready to punch, for the big spread. That's the kind of stuff that he shines at, and he does a lot in this, which is pretty cool. Even down to like the dialogue moments that are just a little more dynamic than your typical normie fantasy story. It just feels like he amps up action poses more, and that's probably coming from his superhero background. I would suspect, So, and that's another positive. So.
James Hayes is here. He says, "Hello, well read, your guest reviewers, and to all the fine folks frequenting the chat. I hope that you're having a great weekend." Thank you, James Hayes. So
Thanks,
far, it's
James.
been quite nice. So I guess one of the summary points to mention is we've talked several times about how this is kind of a comic book experience from something that was a novelization. And he did very much draw on a lot of comic inspiration. So I guess what Mike has laid out here as a protagonist, he's laid out the environment, he's laid out the protagonist, he's laid out his powers, he's laid out his personal conflict and the character arc that you can look forward to. How fertile is that ground leading into the subsequent volumes for this series? Is this a well-established IP or property at this point that you can take it from here and go in any which way you might want afterwards? Have you been given enough to build on for future installments? I feel like I ask essay level questions and people are intimidated.
Yeah,
I'm super intimidated. Super intimidated.
Well, jump in. What do you guys think?
I think it's great. So I'm excited. I really want all 4 installments so I can read this through in one sitting. A little omnibus action. And I'm very happy with what I read here. So I'm picking up a physical copy just because I want it, and that's unusual for me to want to read something twice.
What did you both think, Matt C. and Twitless?
Yeah, like I'm thinking it's kind of like Star Wars in a way. Like there's a personal magic, and then there's the tools of the trade side of this magic as well. And the protagonist is very equipped with both by the end. And yet there's so many, there's an interesting, there's a story conceit in this that's playing out, like including in these pages here that are like, you can tell that there's a lot of interesting ways you could bring new characters and old characters into this protagonist's life that put him at risk or allow him to play games of deceit, or have to choose between the new life that he thinks he wants and the old life that continually boils up and threatens to haunt him again. And that might even, that's just thematically, that's probably on the page. I don't think that's spoiling anything. But there's a lot of ways you can play with that. We haven't seen a love interest yet. Well, that's probably. I'm spoiling it, but
no, that's fine.
It's good.
I think. Yeah. Absence of content isn't really spoilers. I don't think. I don't know.
Well, this is a love interest actually, so you do get that. You get that for this page. But
James Hayes asks, "Isn't this graphic novel based on books already written by Shadowversity?" Yes, we discussed that, and it is, but it's a very thorough retelling, I would say, by Mike S. Miller as an adaptation. Toothless, what are your thoughts about all the pieces laid out here and what we can look forward to in the future?
Shad and Mike, because it's kind of like both of them, right? Have an interesting world to play with. And I would say, without giving any spoilers, the climax of this book does show me that that there's some very interesting story interactions that can happen with this character in this world. That being said, I'm a little on the fence because in order for me to be invested in a chapter 2 through 4, I really need to see more from the main character and how he is portrayed to get invested in his redemptive journey. Chapter 1 was not enough to sell me on his journey. The world, sure. And the way that things are interacting, the playground, as it were, the playground that's been set up, the stage that's been set, and the fact it's like, oh, we could do this, and we could take this character and do this, and have them have this interaction that could lead to some very interesting drama. I'm sold on those things. It's the main character that I'm not, and that is unfortunately a really that's the linchpin. So I need to see a better exploration or a better angle on getting invested in his journey.
Twidless, can I ask you? This first half has a lot of despair and fear and remorse and kind of there's a big range of emotional spectrum stuff that gets explored in the first half of this character. Did you like that more, or did you like the cocky swagger of the second half? Probably not the second half, I'm guessing.
I wasn't the biggest fan of either, to be honest.
Yeah, okay.
The second half, definitely, I was having some issues. The first half, I just had I had a hard time believing it. Let's say you have a character who is haunted by his past. If we're looking at something like what Nathaniel Hawthorne would write, Nathaniel Hawthorne was haunted by so much guilt it infiltrated every single aspect of his writing. These characters would be like haunted by visions, haunted by ghosts, the nightmares, like there was a certain trauma. And we get, I think, like on this panel we have here, I think we get snapshots of it, but it was hard for me again to really, I wasn't fully sold on it. And I feel like I almost felt like I felt like I was being told this character has trauma, but I didn't feel like I felt enough of it to be like, I know you're traumatized, and that you really want to do better. Like there's a line where the character ends up saying, talking about himself. Oh yeah, he felt really bad before he felt bad about things. And it's like, oh really? Did he? It's just that those kind of those flippant comments, and it's like, really? Are you in fact repentant? And that's that's me, but that is the hurdle I am dealing with in terms of getting invested.
It is tough because you begin the story with that character turn moment, right? So it's like, how do you? But that becomes the beginning of the story, and you have to tell a full growth pattern for that character. Is that how you say? You got to do a lot of growth with that character.
Is he a grower or a shower?
Yeah, like starting with what is the ultimate moment of self-discovery. You start with that, and then then you have to grow a lot more beyond that. And that's an interesting challenge. Normally, like, probably in a simpler, less experienced story, you would just write something that was a little more straightforward, and you'd have that sort of thing happen at the end. But because you start with that's kind of an interesting challenge where you've got to sell me that this character actually doesn't understand a lot about himself and has to really discover who he is, even though we've seen, you know, the character kind of kicks off with us having at least on some dimension a lot of self-discovery, though I guess, you know, not enough to follow through, I guess. Well, I don't know. I guess he follow throughs in some respect. But.
I guess I'd like to get John's take before we bring on Mike. What was your feeling about the dichotomy of the first and the second half character arc?
Like I said, I think it just drilled down into the more personal in the second, where it was a much more global look at like the things he had done in the past in the first. So, you know, it kind of, the real story started in the second half, if that makes sense. But like, you do need that background in order to understand what's going on. So I'm not saying that like there was too much exposition or anything like that. It was just kind of different vibes, 100%. And it did feel like two separate issues. It's like, this is a 48-page book, and I don't know how he scripted it, but it looks like he actually broke it down almost intentionally into like 24-page issues. Like it could be a single issue comic in a, you know, 2 issues worth.
It is interesting. It does follow the rule of 4.
Yeah.
Which you don't, I don't think you have to do for a graphic novel. That's probably Mike's, you know, years and years of experience of being able to lay out issues and pages. He probably can do a layout with the rule of 4 in his sleep.
Which half established the character more effectively for the way you'd like to see him going forward?
Second half made me care a lot more, for sure. Mm-hmm. So,
okay.
Second, yeah, I would agree. Second, yeah.
All right. So, I guess we'll leave it at that, and hope that people look forward to seeing more from Shadow of the Conqueror after hearing all the impressions given here. Getting into the second half of this review, we're also going to have the creator on, Mike S. Miller, and get a chance to talk to him a little bit about his process and putting all of this work together. So we'll give Mike a few minutes. Maybe he wants to grab some coffee or grab some tequila, whatever his poison is for the evening. And have a few words with him. I don't know exactly when they're thinking of.
Bring me Mike. Bring him to me now.
Bring him to me now.
Yes. I don't know exactly when they're solidly going to close this campaign and then move into offering the second one. And I don't know how far along the second one is. That would be interesting to get some feedback from Mike on that. But I do know that they are working diligently to keep this series going in sequence and not having a lot of pauses in between volumes.
Well, we also know how fast Mike is, because even though I think this first issue's been done for a long time.
Yeah, he's lightning fast. Say his name and he appears. Welcome, Mike.
Hello. Welcome to our nightmare panel. Mike.
Arm's hurting me.
So what do you think? How'd we do?
Were you punching air with our review?
Reviewers,
but we suck.
How it works.
You're encouraged to break all the
John
rules.
Clearly had the best opinions because he liked it the most.
Damn straight. Damn straight.
There you go.
The art was
I found
like your best yet. So.
Twitless's last critique was hilarious as he's sitting there staring at a panel.
I know that occurred to me, but I gotta go with my gut.
Yeah, I wish he would show this thing that he's showing on this page right here, but more often. I don't know.
Maybe that's
if we'd have done we could have done a bigger book. Maybe we'll do break it out a little bit for the next one, but those are the pages we had, and tried to fit a significant amount of the story and get to that last beat, complete the story arc. So when you're talking about the second half, you're talking about the secondary character, the B character coming in and following through with the whole thing, right? Yeah, that was a tertiary character that I had to expand out and create that whole story arc. So
Wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah, that's not in the book. That's expansive stuff that I wrote in there. So
That's some
See,
of the best stuff.
That
So,
that plays
cool.
into some of what I was saying earlier. I think that in many ways you've improved on what's going on here.
well, I appreciate that, but I have never sold a novel that to the tune of 50,000 copies. So
I'm just calling how I see it.
50,000.
yeah, somewhere around there.
Wow,
I mean, when we first started working on this, he had already sold 30,000. So yeah,
Wow.
that's where
he
I'm
said
at on
he's-
my top one.
he said he's probably
so
somewhere between 40 and 50,000. So I just say
I should go pimp my novels again so I can catch up.
it's funny when you look up Shadow of the Conqueror on YouTube, you
Mhm.
just see endless reviews for the novel, which
Yeah.
is kind of funny. So
That's funny. Yeah. So he's got a lot of friends in those channels, right? Book reviewers and whatnot. So I think that helps. Actually, he should get them to talk about the graphic novel. How rude.
Yeah.
Who knows what he has in store? He's been doing pretty good so far. What are we at?
Mike, can I ask you something about superheroes and jumping?
Jumping?
This is
Sure.
a very big two thing, but when everyone's ready to go fight, everybody
They're always jumping.
is suspended
Yes.
in the air as they're ready to punch each other. And I appreciate that in superhero stories. When I see it in fantasy, like I'm thinking, okay, is this that magic that they were talking about in the first half? Like, can they all float? Is that like a thing, or is this like
You're
is that like
talking
a
about the
enhanced?
dragoons, right? The
Yeah,
knights.
yeah.
Okay, so the dragoons. There's different categories of characters. Like there's these characters.
There's no wrong answer. Like
Right,
it's okay if
there's-
they float, but
And I can talk about stuff, but yeah, the mechanics of that suit utilize the Darkstone and the Sunstone mechanics in the world, and so they technically can't fly, but they can, they can lessen
bounce.
the effects of gravity, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah, so they do have extraordinary powers in this, but that's the suits. That's the technology. There are
Okay.
a group of warriors in this world called the Arch Knights, who they go through this, special training, and then they go through a certain ritual, and the ritual grants them the power to bond the light of this world. And the light of this world is like the light. It's like a deity. It's like the Force, right? And so it
Yeah.
allows them to bond the light to different aspects of their being, whether it's their mass or their muscles or their eyes. Like they can, so if as the further they train in the bonding of the light, then the greater they are with their powers. In his case, this dude was like Tesla level genius. That's why he kind of reshaped the world and made it better. And it's like, it kind of plays back to that, like, Germany was like the most educated country in the world right before they turned into Nazis. That's kind of like a
What did he mean by this?
right. It's like education and intelligence and all that stuff. It doesn't make you a moral person. And so when you're in a position where you're, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet, that type of mentality. It's like, these things have to be done in order to make my utopia. I'm going to have to slaughter all of the oligarchs, right? That mentality. And so, yeah.
I detected an implied critique or engagement with the kind of communist philosophy of like, hey, we have the bad aristocrats, we're going to overthrow them, eradicate them, create a kind of like equality-based utopia, and make a few changes that are positive, but then here come all the negatives from the Great Leap Forward, essentially. And
yeah, I get that. I also get a little more of a sort of a medieval sense that, like, there's a chapter in the book that actually Edwin just read the other day, and I had actually forgotten about it, but it's like he goes through this mentality that's like he killed this person, this oligarch or whatever, higher up guy, and then he realized that his family, should his family also survive, they're going to be a problem. And so he just makes this calculation, amoral, without thinking about whether it's good or wrong, good or bad. He considers it necessary to maintain the stability of his rule. And so he slaughters his entire family, right down, chops the 9-year-old girl's head off right there, right then and there, right?
Oh, he
And
kills
it's
his
like,
own family.
no, he kills the other
No, it's not.
person's family, who he just killed the patriarch of the family, and
Okay.
then
That was the nightmare. Well, we can't say that, but
no, the nightmare.
Is
the
his
night,
own,
that was his family.
his family, yeah.
Okay,
That was
yeah.
his family,
Mhm.
and that is what turned him against those oligarchs.
Mm. Yeah, we
at
didn't
least in
talk
part.
about the politics of this because there's a lot of politics.
There's
And,
there's a line in the graphic novel that specifically mentioned the needs of the individual versus the needs of the collective specifically, which is where I got that was the moment that spoke the
It's
loudest
very
to me
Star
about,
Trek.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that line's in the comic too, and there's a lot of talk. Yeah, like, but I gave my empire equality.
Mm-hmm.
But like, how much of that was you, Mike, and how much of that was Shad? Or you guys are pretty similar, right?
Yeah,
So,
he's pretty based. So
yeah.
I love the
He's-
anti-commie messaging. It was great.
There we go. Yeah, me too.
Big fan. Yeah.
yeah,
I felt like
that's interesting, that one page you were showing. I actually added that, and I talked to Shad about it, because that young girl he's in bed with, where he's shouting at her, to leave and just get away. In the novels, he just casts her aside, and then she becomes a major player in the novel, right? That's Lyra, for those who aren't paying attention. I don't even know if she's named in the graphic novel, but that is Lyra. And I
Yeah, she
was
was
like,
named. Yeah.
oh, okay. I told him, it's like, it would be, it would play better. And it's like, we're not trying to make him the most, in this past life, we're not trying to make him, nice or anything like that. But I did want to give motivations to actions. And so it's like, he was so determined to not have children because of what happened to his previous children, right? That, like, when he's laying in bed with this girl who he is starting to actually have developed feelings for, and then he has that flashback, that PTSD moment, and then he's like, he just shuts himself down. He's like, get out of here, go make sure you're not pregnant, blah blah blah, all that stuff. And like, so I did, as I was going through the story, I did try to add to it where I could. And
No, you have to kind of punch those scenes visually. I feel like you're gonna have to shout them, as it were, for this medium. I think I can see how that would be really well done in a novel, to be very subtle with that, but or to have a quiet moment. But
also
probably
you
shouldn't
can
be
think of
quiet
it as sort of a seed, right? Because when you get to the scene, which will probably be like in the third or fourth graphic novel, where she's confronting this fact about him, then you go back to this novel, and it softens that blow for him as a character that you do want to, because he is our protagonist, you do want to have some level of identifying with him, even though he's Stalin, right? Hitler was good to his dogs.
Well, he's Stalin on a very I don't think it's spoilers to say that I think Shad is also channeling a lot of Christian elements here as well, the concept of the light and so on.
Yeah.
And so it's very much about taking a Stalin-esque character and putting him not just on a character arc journey, but I think putting him on a spiritual path. And that's what the Lightbringer is kind of there to kind of do.
Right.
So it's a very, I personally feel like it's a very tall order to be like, can you narratively get Hitler to be accepted by an audience by taking him on a spiritual journey? Is that something you can really get your audience on board with? And it's a tall order.
It is. It was a hell of a challenge that Shad put himself into. So, and it's interesting because, like you guys are saying, he's like he's not a likable person. Well, yeah, he's not going to be. And it's like, if you have a, let's call it a come to Jesus moment, right? You know, your true conversion moment, that doesn't change your personality. Sanctification, the changing of who you were into who you're supposed to be, is a lifelong progression. So it's like, yeah, he had that miraculous, moment, and he realizes that God essentially is giving him a chance to try it again, and he knows that inside it's like, I've got to do this for the right way this time. That doesn't mean that instantaneously he's no longer a prick and then that's where you had the scene where he's killing the bum. It's like, that's his natural instinct. He just goes right back to his natural instincts of like, threat gone, it's like muscle memory. And then like he's like, oh crap, what did I do? He's like,
So I get, I get, and I saw even the scaffolded pieces of that. There was just, like I said, it's even difficult sometimes for me to put my finger on it. But there was something I was still struggling with overcoming, where I'm like, I wasn't quite there in terms of like getting invested in wanting to see him redeemed. That's, I think, the key for me.
Was it because like that didn't feel like an instinct moment with the bum? Did it feel too premeditated almost in a way? Like he's just kind of.
I guess for maybe I feel like maybe it's the fact that even when he's processing these redemptive things, it's almost like it's still him doing it motivated out of selfishness and not motivated at all with true repentance, which I understand is something you grow into. It's not a switch, but I don't know. It's there's something that I feel like isn't quite clicking. That's just how I feel about it.
Either Mike is deeply pondering your point, or he's cursing you silently.
No, I don't think that's necessarily a wrong take, because you can tell like the repentance and the the self discovery and all of this stuff. As soon as he's confronted by somebody else, he just jumps right back into cocky jerk, right? Mm-hmm. It's like in his quiet moments, in the times he's dealing with stuff, he thinks and he ponders and he's like, how do I change? How do I grow? Whatever like that. But his natural instinct when someone confronts him with stuff is to just be like, who he has been for the 80 years, right? He's 80 years old. He's just got the body of a 17-year-old, and now he's got the attitude of a teenager too.
Is that why I relate to this so much? Because I am
You're 80 years old.
I am like an awesome, powerful being and a cocky jerk.
Was JD the archetype for this character? A Stalin-esque figure looking for
I was thinking about
He has the spirit of a troll. I will give that. He does have the spirit of some trolling in there, and that I think that that's. Mm-hmm.
I feel seen, Mike.
John, do you feel like you've been properly represented in fiction?
This is the JDA biography, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to ask, actually, what was your process in turning this into a comic adaptation? Because that was mentioned several times, where this felt like it had a lot of beats that you would expect in a comic book. And was that intentional when you took it from the novel format to
I don't think about. I mean, I guess it's just so natural to my writing style, because the only thing I've written is comics, right? I haven't written like just actually, no, it's not true. I wrote Deal with the Devil out in prose. But generally speaking, for the last 20 years, all I've written is in comic book style. But I don't think in comic book style. I think in story style. So I want scenes to have that up and down rhythm. I want scenes to fit those beats that you get in a well-crafted, structured story. And then like I said, we needed to get from point A to point B, but I needed to make this a complete story. I wasn't just going to go in and page by page do what's happening in the book, because it needed to be a complete and total story on its own. What if this only did $80,000 and Shad didn't want to do another one? I didn't want to have chapter 1 out there, right? To be continued. I wanted a complete story that people could enjoy. And we even took scenes like with the Lyra stuff. Lyra is introduced this early in the novel, and I just took all the Lyra stuff out to make room for the totality of the story with that tertiary character that I can't remember his name. Who's
Ryogar or something? Or Ryo something?
Rygar? Is it Ryo? Yeah, something like that.
Wow.
I haven't read this thing in a while, so.
Well, so because so since the whole I guess you spoiled the stuff that we were trying to
Rhaegar.
avoid for saying.
Rhaegar.
You gave us permission to talk about this stuff now. So because he's got 80 years of life and he's a 17-year-old again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and there's characters, including particularly Lyra, that are going to show up later, I guess, that you just kind of pushed down the road. Like, are we going to get like an 80-year-old and a 17-year-old romance story, I guess?
Rhaegar.
Benjamin Button.
You mean Twilight?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh god.
But gender reversed. Yeah.
I don't want to spoil the will they, won't they, because obviously they did back when he was like, in his 30s and she was a teenager. Because they did, but will they again? Or is she absolutely disgusted by what he did to her back then? I'll just let that play out. But yeah, in the next chapter, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So there's Cusack and there's Lyra, and they're kind of the other key B players in this story. And chapter 2 will probably have to introduce and fulfill some sort of a total story arc with them. And then there's there's an introduction of another character. I'll just spoil it. He's one of his bastard children shows up in the story, and how he's dealt with is unique and causes some inner conflict as well.
That's so fun. There's so many ways you can play this where you've got those age dynamics get reversed.
Yeah.
And the like who suspects what and how they suspect, like they get everybody seems to have a different piece of the puzzle. They're like, there's something about this guy, and they're each explaining it in different ways, which kind of help you.
And they're like, it's one of the characters is like, I freaking know it's him, but there's no freaking way it's him. Right? Because he's a 17-year-old kid. And then like you notice how we kind of confirmed that it was him for Rhaegar. Right. That was like, at least that had that closure where he figures it out right before everything's over.
It's a good scene.
Yeah. But you're going to do it in different ways for the different characters, which is going to be neat to see you.
Yeah. And they
try to rhyme with that theme.
Yeah. I really, I mean, I know I wrote it, but I really liked no, because I felt like it was like, when you're just freaking mad at somebody, but you're mad at them because you really love them and they betrayed you. It's like me and John Malin.
Yeah, I was just going to say. About you and John Malin?
Exactly where I was going to go with this.
Those vibes were there. Yeah.
So, Mike, are you saying you love John Malin?
I love everyone.
Aw.
Except Nasser.
Except Nasser. Yeah.
Yeah, there was the whole these other people lied about me and you believed their lies.
Yeah.
I was always loyal to you.
Yeah. Spoilers, but yeah.
You were like a son to me.
That was the highlight of the character's storytelling for me.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, same.
This is
It's
Mike's
got a lot
farewell.
of hot. It's got a lot of hot.
Farewell letter to CG. Since we started showing this, and I haven't seen Chad on Flashcast yet, there's been an additional 6 backers here, so that's pretty nice. I don't know if this review is responsible for that, but that's great to see.
We're gonna take credit either way.
Yeah, go ahead. Even though Shad did do a video today and he did his little commercial spiel at the beginning.
No, it's us.
And I'm sure it's this show.
An additional 2 since you came on as well. So yeah.
Yeah.
This
that
thing
means-
just keeps
That
moving.
means half the people that are watching backed it just now. Thanks, everybody. That's phenomenal.
Ouch, Mike. There's been people coming in and out.
Yeah,
So
1,803 backers. That's not bad for this is the 11th day, and we're about halfway through the 11th day because this launched at like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning.
So you said like if it had made 80K, that wouldn't be the sort of success that would launch future issues, right? Like where are you gauging this success? Because this
I
is
just
a
pulled
success,
that number
right?
out of my ass. Shad
Yeah.
just wanted to make 200,000.
Oh,
And
okay.
I'm like,
Well, there
day
you go.
10, bam, right there. We got 35 more days on this campaign. Wherever it goes, we are $4,724 into gravy. So
Wonderful.
yeah.
Is he? I think this is a question some people have asked, just from a logistics standpoint. Is this fulfilling out of the United States?
Yeah, it's
okay.
being printed by API. Like I said, the files are already at the printer. So the files are at the printer because I want to get a pre-press mock-up copy to Shad so that when he goes on shows, he can be like, look, I got it. It's my book. I love it. Yeah. Because that's cool when you have a pre-press copy, right? John has something he could show off right now.
You're muted.
On time
books.
Beautiful.
On time
is.
books.
Oh my god!
There's Overmind. Awesome.
There it is. So we got this in today. I'm very excited, and man, I'm just happy.
He's
Look at
so
our-
excited.
Got a little Ayla drinking a martini glass in the back.
Are the pages in order?
I checked that. It's so amazingly, like if you open up a proof copy and you look at it for like 2 minutes, you can make sure the pages are in order, and then it works.
No.
It's like that's not that hard.
I mean, it could just be like a PDF, right?
It could, yeah. So I gotta check this stuff because like I never know how the full bleed pages are gonna play out or whatever, if they're gonna like crop them wrong or whatever. But here's some of our funky sci-fi designs here.
Oh, that's nice.
More of that on every pages. I love it. So I'm happy, and going to full print. So grab it while you can.
Wait.
Really Valerian there. So
That's what we're working on. Cool.
How far along are the subsequent chapters for Shadow of the Conqueror? Do you know when the fulfillment date is going to be for this first one and when the next campaign might be?
Well, let's see. 35 days will put us into November. We got to get the print numbers in before December because that's what we're trying to do is beat the print price hike in December, which is coming. And let's see. I think they can get them printed probably in like a 3-week span. So fulfillment could start before the end of the year. It's entirely possible.
I've seen some companies dealing with paper shortages. Is that still something hitting a bunch of people?
I hope not. I don't know why they don't just start using hemp. Seriously.
Yeah, everybody grows it in their basement. So
No,
Yeah.
freaking
No shortage
you can
of
grow.
supply.
If you have 1 acre of land, you can grow 40 times as much hemp for paper as you could grow trees. And it's an annual crop. So it's like you don't just have the density, you have the density on an annual basis rather than
What would that look like? Is that more like newsprint? Like what does
No, it's
hemp
just
look like as
freaking
paper?
because you'd
Yeah.
you'd strip it down and you'd mulch it and you'd make paper. It'd just be damn paper.
That's cool.
So, are we hearing that Mike S. Miller partakes?
No. See, here's the problem. You want a history lesson here? Back in the 30s, William Randolph Hearst and DuPont. So DuPont had and by the way, William Randolph Hearst's son was married to DuPont's daughter. So this is all in the family. DuPont had the patent for plastics made from petroleum. You can also make plastic from hemp oil. Hemp, up until then, there's a video out there called Hemp for Victory. The United States government encouraged farmers to plant hemp to win the war. And but so what they did was they created this whole freaking marketing campaign against marijuana, which also was used for like 30 different medicines at the time. but they took the they started doing the like reefer madness and all this stuff, and they started this whole propaganda campaign to make it sound like hemp and marijuana are the same thing. Dude, hemp is just, it's the same. It's from the cannabis, but dude, you try smoking
Yeah, it's
hemp,
like
all
it's
you
like
get is a
cotton.
headache. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not even Mexican dirtweed. It's just like bamboo. It's like smoking bamboo. So yeah, they did that. They got hemp and marijuana illegalized in the same broad stroke, and now everything we have is made out of plastic that kills turtles or something. I don't know.
Kills everything.
But yeah, dude, if we just, I swear, if somebody just came in and said, we're gonna start freaking making hemp, and the entire paper industry stop freaking wasting wood, oh my gosh.
Yeah, hemp revolution.
Mike leading the way.
As long as it resolves in me getting my comics more on time, then
Yeah, because we could, dude, we could wipe out any paper shortage in 1 year of, or probably less, probably like 3 months of growing hemp. We could wipe out the entire paper shortage in this country in the blink of an eye.
So is that like is there like a lumber company consortium or something, or
no? It's just still illegal, generally speaking, because it's still they're when people try to bring this up for, it's like, well, people could just hide marijuana in their hemp fields. It's like, dude, you don't crossbreed 2 strains of marijuana, and you sure as hell don't want to crossbreed good pot with freaking hemp. You're just ruining your marijuana. So it's like, I don't smoke pot, but this is just the reality. It's like they would crossbreed, and you wouldn't want that. And so they have no valid argument for keeping it illegal. I don't understand it. Somebody should run for president and make this happen. So Donald Trump, please.
Ron Paul would have made it happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's true.
Gary Johnson too, right?
Jack Stuffer
Gary
says everyone
Johnson,
I know who smoked dope went clinically insane.
Like Dark Gift.
Yeah, TikTok dark gift. Or maybe he's already there.
I
For
agree.
life.
Say no to drugs.
Say no to drugs.
Ronald Reagan
Say
said drugs
yes.
were bad, so
Yes to hemp, no to drugs.
So Mike, you could draw issue 2 in like 2 months, couldn't you?
If I'm not doing anything else, yeah.
That's great. Does that mean you haven't already done issue 2? Like
No,
that's
I haven't
still
even
waiting.
started it.
Yeah, cool.
This has been on pause for like 1.5 years, so it's like I
Yeah.
wasn't gonna start the next one unless this one was done. Actually, I'm working on an NFT project right now. When I'm done with that, I'll probably start getting back and start listening to the audiobook a couple more times again, and then go through the chapters and see where I can do a good split, good pause.
I remember the drill of doing that, and I never want to do it again.
Mm.
And I really liked the book I did, but it's just like it's so much like, I mean, it's so not as fun as just like, building a random story where you get to do whatever the heck you want,
Yeah. It's a lot easier. What about NFTs?
Oh, well, are they still a thing? Like that's still
Yeah.
pulling in the money? Yeah. That's
I
good.
get paid, I'll just say it. I get paid 6 figures to do one NFT collection. And I'm pretty busy doing those. So yeah, that's why this campaign for me, I mean, I'm going to do it because that's my word. I'm going to do this entire project. But if I have NFT collections offers to do while this comes up, then that's going to go to the back of the line, because there's just no way, unless this makes like $1 million, then
you need to make that ESOM money. Apparently,
there's no competition to my day job. Yeah.
So that being said, what would it take for you to maybe because remember I've heard you say, you know, the monetary side of things, which makes a lot of sense, but I've also heard you say that you miss sequential art storytelling because that seems to be in your blood. So like, what would it take for?
Whoa, hold on a second. That's actually my boss.
Oh,
Okay.
Well, yeah, I was going to take you off the stream. But,
What would it take for Mike to come back to sequential art and make comics?
Exactly.
Well, he's gonna be doing 3 more of these, so that's in the cards there. And I know that Lone Star 3 is currently like getting colored and getting finished and ready. And I believe the Monster Hunt 2 just hit the printer or just got done too. So those are both like getting pushed out. I mean, people probably forgot about those by this point. But Mike will be coming back to comics very shortly. Is what's going to happen after this. I guarantee it.
Is that a prediction or an instruction?
I'm pulling shit out my ass.
This is your Christmas wish list.
I like how we're pumping him up for comics again while he's clearly talking to his NFT.
To an NFT.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. What? These guys want comics? Huh?
Yeah, it'd be fun.
We all want them.
So the question I was really hoping to ask there, which I will, was the what would is it possible to envision a place where you're doing a little bit of both, even if you're working on comics more in the background, maybe a little slower, but still committing yourself to that art form and making those stories as opposed to completely putting them on the back burner in lieu of the NFTs. That's kind of what I was hoping to flesh out.
I think Mike's got the itch a little bit. I think he enjoyed this from just my discussions with him for real. So, you know, I think he would like to do more. I mean, somebody's asking about Blacklist Universe in the chat. Hey, RTD2. Been a long time. But you know, does he have an audience for him to just make his like indie superhero comics at this point? I don't know, but I mean, watching. So I've been watching, kind of, you know, hanging around my show and all that. Like, you know, some of the audience is friendly. Some of it's like they can't handle that he's fighting with YouTube people that they like, I guess. And it's hard to navigate that. I mean, I understand it intimately. That same sort of deal. It's like it would be nice if people cared a little bit more on the art and the story and all that than, you know, the YouTube who's friends with who, but it's kind of the reality of it too.
Well, that's probably why it's good to have Shad also doing a bit of the late work for this.
True.
And, you know, going out there and building goodwill on some of these other
it kind of cleans it up a bit, honestly.
Swords YouTube is not immune to drama either. I was actually, if Shad had showed up, I was actually going to ask him about, there's another very...
There's a big hater group of Shad haters too. So...
Right. Some of that is Matt Easton from Scala Gladiatoria. He and Shad were going like reply videoing each other a little bit over something a while back, and it was about some sort of medieval scholarship or something. But there was a little bit of snipe. It seemed like there was a little bit of drama. I don't know if it was kayfabed, like like deliberate, or if it was actually some drama there. And I was hoping to maybe get a little bit of insight into that.
There's always drama. There's always drama.
Especially in the social media format, it seems to thrive on it. So I'm actually not to go too far into the crypto rabbit hole. I'm a little surprised that Mike is able to pull down that kind of income still on NFTs. I thought he was building it on the Ethereum blockchain, and they recently had a merger that kind of broke the narrative for cryptocurrency. It's now fully regulated. The US can kind of shut off Ethereum at will. You're really just left with nothing but Bitcoin at this point. So I don't know where that income is still being generated if the narrative is gone. I guess it'd be interesting to ask Mike.
Like it's stuff like this that makes me wonder, like, why doesn't he sell the pages from Shadow of the Conqueror as NFTs or something? You know what I mean? Like maybe that's the way to blend and to get outside of the super narrow speculator market and kind of bridge over into the comics people.
I don't know that there's that much overlap, because I asked Mike about that, because I'm like, hey, you know, maybe is there a way I can like capitalize off your NFT people on my next project and do some NFT related like Kickstarter rewards or whatever? And he's like, nah, it's not going to work like that. They're not invested in comics, and then the comics people typically are not invested in NFTs either. So I just don't think. I think it's a very specific interest there, and I think comics are also a very, very specific interest too. So you got two like micro niches, and it's like, you know, to try to get both of them to cross over, you're looking at a Venn diagram of not many people.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing too, Fuzzy Creature, that the crypto market just in general is going to be bottoming out. And
NFTs in particular,
NFTs with it.
NFTs in particular reminded me of tulips, you know, and Beanie Babies, you know, the type of thing where it's like there's a fad, there's this whole market that surrounds this object, and then, you know, poof, it goes away. But I mean, that being said, like if you can make 6 figures now, I mean, make that money while you can.
Yeah,
people are buying it. I mean,
it could be that folks at the top have managed to climb that high up the ladder that they've kind of like got up to a higher story, you know, and then maybe the ladder just has disintegrated. So there's a lot of smaller people who just can't get up there anymore. But maybe he's kind of up, you know, he's got his boss calling him. There's like a more like a secure level, I guess, higher up for the big ballers with this that we just don't even see on the popular market.
Well, at least he's keeping his foot in both worlds, or his feet in both worlds. So there's always comics to fall back on, especially if he's doing ongoing projects like this.
See, I hate to see. I mean, I'm just gonna, you know, show my nerdiness. I hate seeing comics be second-rate citizen. I hate it when it's like, oh, comics is my fallback, or comics is the bastard love child of prose. We're training wheels for something that's better than us. I hate that. I hate that perspective. I'm not calling anyone out. I'm just saying that like comics have a legacy of being treated as being just the redheaded stepchild of so many things, whether it's market or literary, and it's just sad because it's a great medium. There's so much awesomeness to it.
How dare you call me out? We got beef. What do you think, JDA? Because you're heavily vested into comics, and you don't necessarily have to be, but you've chosen to be.
I just do it because I like comics. So
yeah, exactly. Aren't they cool?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the better financial choice probably would have been to just grind out novels faster, but I have more fun with comics, to be honest. So yeah.
Is there any longevity though to your properties being in comics?
I think. I mean, I still sell. Like, if you look at Overmind, I mean, how many copies of Flying Sparks sold on this Overmind campaign? I can look. I mean, so Flying Sparks being from like what 4 years ago now, I just sold. Let me look. Let's see.
Yeah, you're still stacking those sales, right? Yeah.
Yeah. 40. Oh, geez. I sold about 100 copies of Flying Sparks off of the Overmind campaign.
Oh, that's
so,
great.
I mean, that's a lot of people do 100 copies like of their book on their campaign. So, I mean, that's tacked on as like, that's my old book. I just sold a bunch more of, right? So, Flying Sparks is, I don't know what the total copies are at this point, but I mean, it's sold a lot of copies. So I think there is longevity. And so we'll see. I'm going to launch volume 5 after this. And so we'll see kind of how that stacks up once that comes out. So a little nervous about that because it's been a while, but we'll see.
Well, your novels do bigger numbers by comparison, and then also they get more exposure.
Yeah.
Where they could be adapted to maybe TV or movies, things like that.
Yeah, so can comics, though. I mean, it just depends. I don't think there's going to be a TV or movie adapting my stuff. I'm too evil alt-right, you know how that works.
Well, at some point, we're going to need a right-wing media outlet, you know, that has its own version of Hollywood, I think. I thought Daily Wire was trying to do something like that.
They are a little bit, but it's just like the content they're producing is like, you know, the Hunter Biden laptop movie. So
yeah,
yay.
Well, wasn't there a school shooter movie? Didn't they do one that was like?
Did they?
I think they just bought the rights to that. You know.
Huh.
I thought I thought they made one. It was like a girl who's trained to be like a survivalist, and a school shooter comes in, and she has to like use her survival training to
Gosh,
beat
that
him or
sounds
something.
not fun.
Yeah, it's very
that's-
reactionary.
So that's the point,
Yeah.
right? Like, when are they going to pick up superhero properties and start giving
Just
us
to do fun stuff. Yeah, I know.
right wing MCU, like something that doesn't have all the
That's been the
woke
problem.
messaging.
And my buddy dealt with this because he's actually with Bain Books, which is a publishing company, and he spent years just trying to grow his audience, trying to figure things out, like in the book realm. And so he like back then, like blogs were the thing before YouTube, really. And his blog, whenever he would blog about political stuff, he'd get thousands of clicks on every single one of them, and it'd just go through the roof. And he'd just maintain doing that. But he found that like the translation to people who just wanted to buy his like alien sci-fi story that didn't have any political stuff to it was like almost zero. And so he got a lot of clicks, but it doesn't translate over. So it's like something like the Daily Wire can do a Hunter Biden laptop story, and it's going to get their political people maybe interested a little bit. But if they just make a movie about like flying sparks or whatever, and it has no political component to it, like they can't even talk about it. Like it's just going to tune their audience out 100%. And that's kind of the problem we run into on the conservative side. Is like our side is so hyper focused, just like on, I guess, that real world politics element of things. It's kind of rough,
Right? Because when they want to get entertained, they go straight for the normal consumer route,
Right.
which is why, like when I don't remember when Doug TenNapel went for the political route, he got a lot of political views, but I don't think there was any crossover to his comics. So like
Not
there's
really.
a completely disparate audiences.
It's an interesting tightrope to walk there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they
Yeah.
just haven't found the right note to hit on that zeitgeist. I mean, if they're just trying to mirror what mainstream Hollywood is doing, that's probably not the way to go for their audience. Their audience is a little bit more thoughtful, I think, not so superficial and shallow, and maybe would like entertainment content that also reflects a bit of their, their tastes in general.
I feel like you guys
We've seen that a
are just elliptically talking about Ripaverse essentially, because isn't he the crossover essentially? Between those two?
Ripa managed to cross over it, and it's interesting because it's like, how do you replicate that? And I don't know. If I knew, I'd do it better, I guess.
Show up a bunch on Fox and Friends.
Yeah. So I mean, what he did is he really developed his his own platform of talking politics and talking culture for years before even attempting to start making a comic, right? So, he had that 500K subscribe. John Malin says, don't remember John Malin said, don't crowdfund a comic until you have at least 2,000 YouTube subscribers or something like that.
Right.
That was a couple of years ago. He was very controversial. And I used to kind of laugh at that and say, gosh, that, I don't have those kind of subscribers. But like, I realized that like the minute I had that kind of subscribers and then I launched a campaign, I realized, oh God, he's kind of right. And when people say things like that on don't do this unless, they're not gatekeeping. They're giving you advice on like the best business practices. And so you can look at it one way or another, but like Ripa, like getting to that 500K subscribers and then launching this, is such a huge difference. I really think that's what drives a lot when you have that kind of platform to build off of, who's invested in you personally, right?
The conundrum is then, though, which I've seen some people struggle with, including like I've faced this myself, which is having to grind doing something that has nothing to do with comics so you can get around to doing the thing you want to do, which is freaking comics. And it's like, can I please just grind comics? Could I do that? No, you have to grind this
No,
other
you can't.
thing.
You really can't. I tried that to it. Listen, I tried to grind the comics. I used to make a big pride out of like, look, I'm releasing a comic every month, guys. And I did that for like 2-3 years. And I'm like, look at how I've got the capability to do this. I just need the backing to like maintain it. And nobody cared. Now, as soon as I have a YouTube channel, it's like quite different. Like I make this, and I had 600 backers, and I'm close to 1,000 copies off of it between the couple covers. So it's like, this is working. And so, Yeah, it seems like you just got to grind your platform somehow. Maybe there's a way to do it on Twitter or Instagram or something that's a little different than YouTube. I don't know. I'm not very good at Instagram, but probably easier if you're a hot chick, Twitless. So
Well,
Twitless is a hot chick.
there we go. Yeah.
transition
Surprise.
Twitless. I support you.
Yeah.
Gosh. That would actually. The sad thing is that would actually work. Like we can
You
point
being a
to,
girl.
we could point we can point to people in the mainstream industry who have used that exact
Oh,
road.
totally.
Yeah.
You can so try this face app yourself, like onto a girl. Remember how Liam face tapped himself into a girl and it was creepy?
No.
So
Oh,
he
wow, that
did.
sounds great.
He said he was the hottest girl in CG. And do that. Make a separate identity, like Twitlessina, and then just like try to make your book from there, and see how that goes as a social experiment.
Oh, jeez. I think Matt T are gonna go drink ourselves into oblivion here.
I was just thinking, like, Twitless, just work on your vocal fry just a little bit. I know
Hi,
that's really
Twitlessina.
difficult for you. Yeah.
We are no longer friends.
Is that the vocal fry?
Yeah.
So I'm desperately trying to dig it up, but I actually did this favor for Twitless at one point. Tried to make an alternate representation that might maybe attract a few more readers to him.
Can we please not
His
do
book's good too. So
this? Can we not?
Can we not?
Oh, do you have something? Or are you going to share?
I'm trying to find it. But yeah, I definitely have the Twitless that we all want and desire. Oh,
That's
Twitless.
sick.
Twitless, you're a mutt.
Thanks, Nasser.
Classic.
Nasserless.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even Nasser's improved. He's done the 2.0, right? Like,
Yeah.
he lost like 60 pounds or something.
He's looking. What did Ethan say earlier? He looks like a skinny lesbian now. So. Oh my gosh! Can you believe my show the last few days? It's been Ethan and Edwin and Nasser
Incredible.
and Mike. It's like it's 2017 again. Yeah. Oh my gosh! I don't know why that's happening, but it is.
So I think when Twitless is ready to take crowdfunding a little bit more seriously and try to grow his audience, this is definitely the way he should go.
This is the way.
Yeah. So there you go.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That's the
I do remember
Twitless that reads.
That'll make the big bucks, Twitless. Right there.
There you go.
A
Show my
little
legs.
leg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a little less hair
Hey.
down there.
Great. Yes. Welcome back, Mike.
Just in time. We weren't doing
Sorry.
anything bad.
I answered all your like career questions, Mike. I just totally made it up.
JDA is now your full-time manager. He's going to be
Yeah.
correcting your career from this point on.
Mike's
That was
my
the first
full-time
time I ever
manager.
got a phone call from a billionaire. That's interesting.
Oh wow, that's an interesting. That's an interesting.
That's not
little
your
bit of-
comics boss, right? That
No,
would be
that's
your
my
other-
NFT boss.
Yeah.
I've talked to 3 separate billionaires on the phone. I guess.
Oh, really? Oh, actually, you
Yeah.
know what? That's not true. One of my friends from high school is a billionaire too. His friend, my buddy, Derek, he creates and sells tech companies essentially. But anyways, his little brother is best friends with Roger Ver, who I'm sure none of you have ever heard of, but he used to be called Bitcoin Jesus. He was like one of the most famous people in the crypto space. And it's like, because I'm from San Jose, it's like we have just this, like one of the founders of Twitter is a family friend. You know, it's
Tell
that
them to stop suspending
small.
me.
no, I think he's been gone for a while. Yeah. No, billionaire in USD, Jack Stafford.
It's a smillionaire, Stafford.
Brian Suddenly might be familiar with the Shadow of the Conqueror from the novelization. He says, "So I didn't back this because of the content of the writing. I couldn't support the main character. Is beyond redemption for me. The art looks fantastic, though. Would you like to illustrate a little bit of the differences between the comic and the novel for Brian, Mike?"
The comic has drawings in it.
I just want to say that nobody's beyond redemption, my friend Brian. The
That's
power
correct.
of Jesus
That's
Christ
correct.
can save anyone. It's never too late.
Yeah, Saul was a murderer. He was the worst of them, and he became the greatest apostle.
Saul.
Yeah, that's a pretty strong
Saul
theme.
of
Like, you're not
Tarsus,
subtle with
Paul.
that in this.
Oh,
The apostle Paul, his name was Saul
right.
when he was murdering Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah.
We had
I have a
oh.
script written, by the way, about that.
Oh really?
And I don't know what to do with it. I don't know if I should go there or not. You guys should just go for it.
Sure.
How are you going about it?
I mean, just like a full-on historical fiction, just set in that time period.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Would definitely be better than the what was it, Vampire Hunter Jesus that we saw in that comic
Yeah,
store?
I that's evil.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, part of me wants to do that, and then part of me is like, is that like not fun? I don't know.
I mean, there's
What
a
do you think,
market
Chad?
for that. You know, there's a big shelf on the digital shelf on Amazon for, Christian historical fiction.
I
Interesting.
mean, I would pray about it and see what the Lord leads you to. Yeah.
Did I miss anything? Sorry, I was gone for a minute.
Well,
We were wondering
had
if you're
a-
going to come back to comics.
I had a
wondering-
question. I had a whole
question.
question lined up about what would it take for you to balance out your NFT work with also continuing to work on sequential art storytelling in a semi-regular capacity. Can you envision that in the future at some point having a balance?
I mean,
between
I
those
have
two?
to do the rest of this series,
Mhm.
right? So that's pretty regular for a while, for a minute.
My question.
8 months worth of solid work.
My question is about NFTs being on the Ethereum blockchain and how the Ethereum merger has kind of changed the narrative on cryptocurrency for, it seems like all of it except for Bitcoin, where now it's like fully
Proof of stake.
and regulated by the US. Like they can shut it off, from what I understand, at any point in time if they want.
Well, the SEC could go after them claiming it's a security. They did come out and say, "Oh, all proof of stake is security," but at the same time, they're in a freaking they're in a lawsuit that they're losing with XRP. So I don't know. You just got to get the right people in Washington, and they're more and more of the people in Washington are moving towards crypto. So you can't just stifle an entire technology and expect to be a leader in the world, because you can shut it down all you want in America. Technically you can't. You could try to shut it down in America. China has been trying to shut it down for a decade, and every time they issue another big thing about shutting down crypto and Bitcoin, the crypto community just laughs and says, "Well, you're proving our point that money should be beyond government control."
That's true with Bitcoin, but from what I understand, Bitcoin is the last stronghold for crypto, and all the other ones have now become susceptible to that kind of regulation
and oversight. Offshore.
So
it's global. It's a global network. Ethereum isn't just mined in America, so they could try to shut it down, but how are you going to shut down a global network from one country?
Didn't the new merger, though, give them the faculties to do that?
And not that I know of. I mean, you still have stakers. It's proof of stake now, but you've still got stakers everywhere on the planet. And they all have the blockchain on their computers, right?
Yeah, but they'll embrace it into a central bank digital currency, says Nanji.
No. Central bank digital currencies will be their own thing. Every country will probably end up with its own CBDC or CBC. No, CBDC. Do you really want to turn this into a cryptocurrency discussion? Because I do that, but I'm not sure if your audience cares.
Well, so I'm entertaining the fantasy of crypto dying just so that you would come back to comics. So the entire
I think all
you would want to
feel that way.
You'd want to cripple the
entire
of
economic
technology,
sector.
the entire next economic
just
step
to get Mike S. Miller to do
the
comics
internet
again.
of money.
It's
you want
worth
to
it.
destroy in order to get me drawing comic books.
Welcome to comic
fair.
book fandom. We'll see the world burn, but you will draw Batman again.
Exactly. I want my Micah Miller Spider-Man.
I don't think that's a good idea, but you do you, Well-Read.
All right. Let's see how many backers my wishful thinking has garnered you. Another 3. Oh,
Wow,
lucky.
you're killing it.
Look at that.
Can I at least have credit for one of these backers, Mike?
Go for it.
Please. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I got you a whole backer tonight.
dropped-
The only person I heard in the chat was saying they weren't backing the book well read.
Yeah.
Who's
way to
not
did-
backing my book?
Uh,
90% of Comicsgate.
I don't know about that actually. I don't know.
That was
So
my
you've been
loss.
keeping
I went
you've been
from
keeping pretty
3,000
close
backers.
tabs
I
on
went from-
everybody.
no,
I've
I
seen
just
your
know it.
list of who you're
Oh.
beating, right?
Well, I
yeah.
just went down and I wrote down everybody, everyone who had a 6-figure or better campaign. Here, let me share my screen.
Yeah.
And
So this is Schadenfreude. This is Dark Mike, right?
Dark
That's
Mike.
what this is.
Nanji backed it. All
This-
because of us.
Nanji backed
This
it.
is
There
the
we go.
competition. Since I'm
Awesome.
Day one.
Turn,
That was day one. That was not because of this.
Oh.
Retroactively,
Let me have
he
it.
knew this.
I am
He knew this
retconning.
stream was.
I am
He knew this
retconning
stream
it.
was coming. Yeah.
Oh wait, I gotta update it. So where are we at? We're at
2004, 204,000.
204, 872. And then I
Yeah,
just
your
wrote
next one
there.
is Allegiance Arts, I think, right?
No, my next one is She Omnibus. I just took out Red Rooster Golden Age.
Oh,
we,
you
uh,
just
We already
did.
did.
Zoom in
Wow.
on this a little bit so we can make it
Well, I think
legible.
I don't know if I can zoom. Oh, yeah, I guess I can. So
I like Mitch.
this is
Brightwell
where
so
we
much.
went. This is where we started. 100 shot up to 200. Looks like we got some rungs to go before we get to 300. I'm targeting Shane Davis's Glorious Rex.
Hmm.
Oh boy,
The next 100,000.
it's gonna make him real mad.
Bring it down.
So do you have like a snarky tweet in the deck for Tucci? Are you gonna try and take him down a peg when you pass like you've been doing for everybody else?
I don't do that for everybody else. I just did that for Malin.
Oh, you did it for Doug even.
Oh yeah,
You
but
even did it for Doug tonight.
I did it out of love.
Yeah.
I wrote what did I do for Doug? Let's see. I said
Yeah,
sorry,
you managed to
Doug,
get that
but-
high without having to do an 8-hour frog stream.
That's
yeah.
I completely missed all the lore between why Doug Tenaple and Mike don't get along.
We absolutely get along. What
They're
are you talking
friends. They're like
Oh,
real
is it?
close.
Okay,
Yeah,
I
we
thought
just
there, I
had
thought
like
there was.
I just talked to him for like a half an hour yesterday. On the
Okay,
phone.
okay, then I must have misunderstood. I thought I'd heard something about like.
No.
All right.
Well, the tweet was a little, I mean, I
Oh
was a
my
little
God, if-
surprised.
Maybe I'll
but-
get Doug on my show and then get everybody mad.
It
Oh,
was-
there you go.
The tweet literally says,
That'll
"Good
do it.
morning. What a glorious morning
I've
when you
been
wake
there.
up on the 11th day of your campaign." Oh no, shoot, that's the wrong tweet. That's the wrong tweet. Is that the wrong tweet? That's the wrong tweet. That's the one I did this morning. Sorry, Doug Tenaple, but we just beat Bigfoot Bill. Guess we didn't need an 8-hour Pie Man stream to get there. Smiley face. Special thanks to Rikita Law for having Shad on tonight. So,
Yeah,
Which is an
that's a dig at
8-hour
Doug and
Ricada
Pie Man.
stream.
Doug,
be fair.
Doug knows I love him. So,
Yeah, it's fair.
I haven't seen Shad on Flashcast all night.
yeah, well, you have to keep in mind it is Sunday there.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So he's probably spending time with his family instead of jumping on.
No, skip church. Hang out with a bunch of weirdos on the internet.
That's the way to go.
That'll save your soul.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's LDS, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's a faithful member of the Church of.
got some
Latter-day
lodge
Gift
stuff
says, "Way to
too.
kill your
Yeah.
career just as booming." I don't play the game. Like I don't care. I'll have whoever on my show. I feel like I
You
really
put Eric
do not
Larson on there.
Care. Yeah,
I've had that rule
I-
too, and that drove a lot of my views down. As
it actually
had
did.
I had an open door policy. I still do.
Yeah,
and
you do.
but people just
Well,
didn't
Doug
like that.
Doug is apparently somehow banned from YouTube, and so I mean, even Nick was talking about it last night. How he'd like to have Doug on, but it's like they're afraid of YouTube striking his channel for having Doug on.
Alex Jones was on Friday Night Tights.
That's
I mean,
what
is
I
Doug
was thinking.
is Doug more dangerous than Alex Jones? Yeah, maybe
That
he
is
is.
what I was thinking. Yeah.
Maybe he is.
He's
what
come
does
on
Brian
a
say?
review show with us before with like the camera pointed at his belly, which was disconcerting, but I think that was like some kind of way of not showing himself. I mean, he doesn't even have to come on camera. I don't even know why he turned the camera on, but
Doug is
there's ways around
Eric Larson is more acceptable over Doug with it. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
That's kind of
Yeah.
crazy to think about. Doesn't even make
bizarro
sense.
world.
Yeah.
wild.
No, I mean, if you understand the politics, I guess that does make sense. But
Brian Suddenly Old says, "You don't need my money, but I'm not backing because of you, Mike. It's because of the novel and its content. Sorry, Mike, I'm late to CG and all that.
C didn't like
drama
the
missed
novel.
Me and you are weird. So is everyone."
I like this
Yeah,
guy.
there's man. There's
I
a
do too.
lot
Hey, Brian.
of crazy content in the book, but I'm a conservative Christian, and Shad understands the difference between the written word and the illustrative stuff happening. So it'll, like I chopped a guy's head off in the first issue, so there'll be that kind of stuff, but there's not going to be the kind of like nudity and rapage and stuff like that.
Because
At least not visualized. Sorry. Sorry. At least not
Fair.
visualized.
I know the story does deal with that type of content.
Yeah.
So
I heard that conversation earlier about what was considered to be marketable in CG, and like you brought up Starlight Cats and wondered, why is that something that got a lot of traction, but some of these other great properties wouldn't.
Yeah, I think it's being on the right shows and getting seen on the right shows is more important than concept.
I just think it's hogwash that Nora's Saga is not marketable. It's a fantasy title with the most beloved person in Comicsgate, and that's not marketable. No, this is all because of Mitch and how
Red Rooster and all that.
betrayed
Yeah.
Comicsgate feels about him. That's the only reason that Nora's Saga didn't do six figures easy.
Isn't Nora Saga also the most popular title that they sell in Walmart? I remember Mitch once saying that when he was on stream.
It's if you look at their titles, Nora Saga to me is the most marketable. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah,
it has the biggest numbers
from like a
yeah. So I thought that whole
standpoint.
argument was just bullcrap, like trying to defend the audience when it's the audience that are the ones that aren't buying. So it's like, I mean, and you're free to. That's 100%. It's your money. You choose what you want to spend it on. But don't sit here and trying to pretend like that's not what's happening. It's like there's a whole bunch of unforgiving people who would never back anything to do with Mitch or me or Doug or you, John. Ever
me.
Again.
Yeah, I get a lot of that.
Yeah,
I'll never back JDA's book.
That's right.
I actually saw a tweet earlier. It was yesterday, maybe, like saying they never back my book, and I'm like, and it wasn't that the book was bad. They're like, the book was good, but JDA, he's awful. I'm like, okay, well, at least the book was good. That's all I care about. So.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not. Put that as a pull quote.
I know, right?
Mean, I'm here as well, Red. I'm here as a favor to you because you're my friend, and
thank you.
I'm not even trying to market to Comicsgate just because it's just, Shad going on Friday Night Tights and going on Ricada and Yellow Flash and all these other places that don't necessarily have to deal with chat saying, I like you, Shad, but I'm not going to back your book because you had Miller. It's like
there's a little more like Comicsgate's in a different spot these days too than just that. Like there's a lot of different silos at Comicsgate. Like it's very like,
but there's enough and they're freaking noisy enough to make it irritating.
Well, also like
if you're
there's not a lot of review shows anywhere. Like there are very few.
So there you go.
Yeah,
to assuage any concerns.
That's fair.
Leaving no doubt.
Leave it to Wilberforce.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but I mean, like, hopefully for posterity's sake, at least
Matt,
for
can
a
anybody
few...
on the panel say that Nora's Saga shouldn't have done six figures?
No, it should have, absolutely. I think
we're very pro allegiance here.
Yeah.
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 I mean,
But-
there have
but-
been missteps, but like everybody makes mistakes, but they did good things, frankly. Like, you
Yeah,
can't-
and they
positives
made
outweigh the
apologies.
negatives.
Everything I've read from them has been fantastic, top tier quality too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I think Bass Reeves should do friggin' 200,000, but
Oh, Bass Reeves, come on.
that. That's too hard to market.
I don't like the art of Bass Reeves.
Yeah,
You're-
it's a
you're
little
crazy,
weird.
Still
dude.
there. Yeah.
You're crazy. David's freaking awesome. David's
No
a
offense,
legend.
David.
They took a risk with the art. They took a risk, and
It's stylized for sure.
it's no Kelsey Shannon.
Dark Gift is also extending his
Look
hand.
at that fence sitter. Sit on that fence, Dark Gift.
Yeah. I don't know. What were you saying, Matsy, about the review shows and the
Well,
conference?
just maybe we're not going to sell a ton of books here, but those other shows aren't going to review the comic, not in depth, and maybe it's a minority audience that actually wants a live stream in-depth reviews of these comics. But at least we do appreciate that you wanted to come and have that happen here. That's really special. So, and
Yeah,
hopefully for posterity's sake, like that sort of like this recording is gonna get around to that minority audience that actually wants to see this discussed in depth for an hour plus. So
Well, I hope so. Actually, there's some guy I'd never heard of, the Drunk or something like that, but he's his channel, very small channel, and he
Oh yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he only usually gets like 200 or 300 views, and he mentioned the Shadow of the Conqueror and project, and then Shad mentioned it, and he got like his whole comment section just full up of people. I'm from Shad. I'm here. Shad sent me and all this stuff. So then he got like, I don't know how many views he's at now, but he was well over.
That's what's cool because
1,200.
we can all help each
Awesome.
other in our own ways like that. I mean, it's nice. I love getting little, reviews from small channels. It's great. I'm sure Mike loves that too.
Sure.
Except for when the Royal Ups review us. I mean that. F them. But
Those guys can't even read.
yeah,
I watched
But,
I watched a review once, and it was
oh
just
man.
it was so lacking in content. It was just like, I hate this. It was like, thanks.
That's what
Yeah.
they
That
do.
was, that was
just-
it.
Yeah.
It was like,
self-referential memes. It's just awful, nauseating.
Yeah.
But it's nice,
guys
and we can shout them out back, and and give people some views like when that happens too. I think that's a nice. I think it's a nice way to do things and build everybody's channels up. Make everything better for everybody.
Ooh, we're real close to 205.
Yeah, I
Thank
was just
you,
about
Well
to
Read.
check.
that's all
Thank-
us. All us.
You're welcome. We convinced Brian. He's not willing to admit it in chat. So let me actually refresh that campaign and check out the numbers. Yeah, picked up another backer. There we go. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, Brian's asking about your older works. He's got a lot. There's a lot you can buy. Do you have any open campaigns on Indiegogo still?
No, I closed them all when I started making NFTs.
Yeah.
I never want to ship anything again.
Oh my gosh, you
Thankfully,
don't
I'm
even want to
having-
fulfill anything
I
anymore.
don't. But that's okay because I hired someone in the chat to do my fulfillment for me. So
Mm.
actually, after I did that, I was thinking, maybe I should just open it up again. But I don't think I can open a closed campaign,
Yeah, they don't let you do that. You'd have to
Yeah.
boot up a new one.
which that wouldn't be worth it. Too much work.
I've seen people. You can email them if it's well, maybe not for you. Like if it's been closed for a few days, I've seen people have theirs reopened. But
Yeah, no. Sorry, there's no way to buy my books.
eBay.
man,
Yeah. Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Can I,
Let's see
can I,
if
can I
there's
drive
any
to your
in
house and just buy a copy?
the- If you drive to my house, I'll just give you a copy.
Okay.
Let's go to eBay and see if there's any Lone Star books on there.
Because I wanted to read Lone Star. I like his design.
What you were saying, JD, though, about like the channels all helping each other. Like that's how CG is supposed to work in theory, but it's become extremely cliquish, I think.
It's become a little more difficult. I've noticed that the silos are a little more
defined.
rigid. Like
Yeah.
it's like you have to really work to get on, certain shows that are in different silos, and it's like that's kind of a bummer. Like last year, I just remember like Testify and I would just roll around to random shows all the time, and there were just so many random little shows out there, and that doesn't exist so much anymore. So
Yeah, Brian, if you want to get these, go and get Lone Star Soul of the Soldier, that's issue 2, and Lone Star Heart of the Hero, which has got to be around here somewhere. Is there no Heart of the Heroes? Oh, there's one. Heart of the Hero. Ooh, look at that. 1837 or best offer. That's a good deal. So Heart of the Hero is number 1. Soul of the Soldier is number 2. There's only one Heart of the Hero available, though. That's interesting. Although you can also go get The Meg. That's the adaptation I did.
I was gonna make a full slate of, because I have Robotoad. I was gonna make Captain Texas to piss you off, and then I was gonna make Swing Shift to piss Malin off. I just never got around to it. Yeah.
Swing Ship's a good name. That's
Yeah.
it's legit.
Oh, and then we go to the Frank Miller stuff. Oh, there's one of my covers.
Yeah.
Hey,
So-
Game of Thrones. Oh, you can get my G.I. Joe versus Transformers. I didn't write it, but I drew it.
And I was gonna do, instead of Jawbreakers, I was gonna do Skull Crackers.
That one's not as good as Swing Shift,
No.
in my opinion.
And of course, Red Rooster would be the Crimson Cock.
Wow, somebody's trying
Yeah.
to sell the Imaginaries for $70. Look at this. That's crazy. $70. I wouldn't even pay that much for it.
Sweet.
That happens sometimes.
Although I don't, I probably have 10 copies of that left, so there's no more available except for what's on the secondary market. Cool. And yeah, then Lone Star 3, I'm in the middle of coloring that, and that'll be great when it'll be fun when that's done. But,
Will there be a catch-up tier for 2 and 1 in that one?
it's closed.
Oh, for 3? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, this is
Campaign's
for
closed.
fulfillment.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Yep.
just for fulfillment.
Nope, you're screwed, Twitless.
Yeah, well, guess it's gonna be a road trip.
Yeah,
Thanks,
that's pretty-
Mike.
That's
For
pretty
sure,
lengthy.
for sure.
Is there any fruit I should be picking up on the way there?
Yeah, pick me up some lychees. I love lychees.
Well, we've hit the 2-hour mark, and it's nice to have a fixed point to close up on when people rewatch the stream. So not going to drag too long. Anything we want to say in closing? Things to look forward to in the future. Mike, if this fulfills by the end of the year, when would you expect the second campaign to be up?
Well, I know Shad wouldn't launch the second campaign until the book was done.
Mhm.
So whenever I start it, until however long it takes me to get it done, and then we'll launch it. So something like that. Plus, I'm trying to get him, because he has a couple other properties he wants to do, and I'm trying to motivate him to maybe get those started as soon as possible, because he'll clearly have the money to fund other projects once this is done, and he wants to roll over all that money into new projects. And it'd be great to see like one of those other projects in between this and the second Shadow of the Conqueror, because
Are any of those collaborations with you, or is that just stuff he's spinning off with other?
well, I would help him develop them, help him put the teams together. I've got Kevin Sharp for his like space fantasy epic that he wants to do, and I had Kevin do a piece and showed it to him, and he was just like, "That's awesome! You want to see it?" Let me show you.
Yeah. So he's trying to do his own Rippaverse thing out of this then.
Well, he's had a bunch of stories for a long time, and he has had no outlet for them, and so he wants to just use this money as an investment towards that. So, where did I put it? Shadiversity. There we go. All right. Which I love, because I think that's how that's how you fight the culture war. Frankly, you just keep developing intellectual properties into a stable of things that if Hollywood's not going to pick them, then
This is
like Doug has pitched stuff to Japan because Japan isn't a bunch of woke twerps.
this is Shad's love of He-Man, isn't it? That's
Basically He-Man and Star Wars. So
Wow.
I remember Shad saying he
Looks
was a
good.
huge fan of He-Man.
So yeah, he had this character design that he emailed me for me to show while he was on my show, and then I was like, who needs to draw this? And so I told Kevin to draw it, and he did it. And Shad was like, "Oh my gosh,
That's perfect for
that's
Kevin.
awesome."
Very
Yeah.
What are those things on his? What are those things on his shoulders? Are those?
It's like a thing
What's
on
that?
his back. So
Okay.
I have no idea. I just saw the character design. I didn't grill Shad about it. But totally, he's totally the guy to draw it.
John Carter inspired.
Maybe.
Hmm.
Maybe.
Very cool.
And then I did talk to Kanan today about doing a piece of art for the other project. I was thinking about Matt Weldon, but really I think Kanan might be a better choice for that project. So he's working on a sample piece for Shad right now.
Very nice. John, do we have anything to look forward to from you anytime in the future?
I'm going to be fulfilling. That's going to be my next month. Overmind is going into fulfillment right now, so you can get that on Backer Kit. And this is a 66-page graphic novel about fighting a AI that's trying to take over the world and then the universe. And so here's that link. So thank you guys. Appreciate all the support so far. Thank you, Comicsgate. Thank you, not Comicsgate, who bought it too. Everybody who bought it. I like everybody. I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't
Comics
care who
readers-
you are.
Comic
Yes.
readers in general. Well, I mean, do you
I
have
love
another...
everybody. I don't like everybody.
do you have
Do
any?
you love? Will you say you love Nasser live on the air right here?
I do love Nasser. I hope the best for Nasser, and I hope he never talks to me again.
Oh no.
As it should
That's so
be.
sad.
So as our resident, how do you like them apples, King Kumbaya?
Yeah. No, I mean that's better than 2021 Mike S. Miller. So
What do you mean?
Is it?
we're okay. Well, it's better. The fact that we're even talking about this on air is better than. How about that? Maybe he felt the same way back then. But
About what? About Nasser?
Nasser's redemption arc.
oh, I guess
think
you were friends back then.
He was
so-
friends with Nasser in
Okay.
2021. There was
It's
a
worse.
stream where Nasser kind of started a little schmack talking, where he got in it at Mike a little bit. Was that the one where he brought Doug TeNapel on? And were you on that one, Mike? I don't remember.
I don't think so.
So
There's something like
No,
that.
so
And that-
here's I'll just lay it out. Nasser, used to talk to me and Doug and Edwin and Elliot and like looking for mentorship and friendship and all this
Yeah.
stuff. It wasn't all about gay comics drama bullcrap. It was about trying being a person with relationships and asking advice and all this kind of stuff. And then the second he jumped back on Ethan's lap, he started talking crap about all of us. And I'm like, no.
Here's
I
what
don't-
I'll say about
that's-
Nasser,
that's a-
where
that's
I
a
think
terrible human
you're
being.
missing things. He kind of got caught up in that like team drama to start, and I think he wanted to do that just to get on Ethan's good side to
Right.
try to get his comics going,
Which makes him
sucks. I get it,
ineligible to be my friend.
but
Not,
Yeah,
not
it's a
being
maturity
Ethan's friend.
thing.
I'm
he's
fine-
now
I'm
he's
fine
now
with you,
matured
like,
over
John,
the
I'm
last
fine with
several
you
months.
being Ethan's friend. I don't care. It's like that's nothing. But
Yeah, I
the
understand.
absolute 180 degree in like a millisecond. As soon as Ethan rubbed his belly, he was like,
I'm gonna defend Nasser though.
Ethan. It's like,
And I'm gonna say over the last 9 months, you've noticed he like doesn't stream very much. And all. He got a job. He's lost weight. He's really grown up, like in a good way. Where
really, because
I-
when he was
I
on your
really
show
think it's a good
today,
thing.
that was not a good.
wait, I got this.
indication of
Matsy, I got this. Okay, so
Yeah.
Mike, So if Dalen the Conqueror, Mr. Stalin, Holodomor, awful evil guy can go on a redemption arc,
Yeah.
why can't Nasser can go right on that redemption?
Exactly.
Because I asked him today. He said someone asked if I would forgive Nasser, and I said yeah as soon as he apologized. And he goes, "Hey, for what?" And I'm like, "Okay, then we're done." The people
No
who can't
self-awareness.
recognize, the people who can't recognize their own fault in things, it's like you can't convince them, and it's an absolute waste of time to try.
Very true. True words never spoken.
I can't keep up with all this lore.
No back to the lore button on this.
Not on this channel. No.
Yeah.
I just want to let Liam Gray know that I will be your friend, Liam, anytime you want. Anytime you
John,
want.
what future properties after Overmind is fulfilled do we have to look forward to from you? Are you working on anything?
Flying Sparks Volume 5, so that'll close out that storyline. So that's been one that I built to be a 15-issue storyline, and that's what we'll get.
You were looking
next.
for were you looking for a colorist? Didn't you and Mike have the same problem of having
I've got
colorist
a
problems?
super slow colorist who's been turning in 2 pages a month, and I'm just like, dude. And I'm gonna need to replace him actually for the final issue because I can't do that. But we've
Kyle
got
Ritter
22 pages
moonlighting?
left to do. I don't know. I've got some options. I just I try to keep consistent on a book if I can, so it's just the same. But I'm just gonna have to bite the bullet on this one.
Yeah. All right.
Sneak Pink showed up in chat. Hey, Smug.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know
how
if you
you
wanted to address this directly. Smeeg is asking, I heard Mike is CG now. Is this true? I guess you're the best.
That is incorrect.
Yeah. So
He is a CG king, though, so we can officially say
That is incorrect.
Mike is CG. He's crypto guy.
You heard it here.
I'm also a Christian guy.
Yeah, there you go.
he's
also a clever guy.
he's a Ronin king, going his own way. Matt
He's also a
C.
comic goober. Yes,
yeah. Crypto goober.
crypto goober.
And criminally good looking.
Oh,
Speaking of criminally good looking, Matt C., would you like to pitch to us Kyrie? I hope I said that correctly. 3.
Aww.
Yeah, so this is my third entry in the acclaimed Sword and Sandal Romance of the Sands North African Roman adventure series. So
hold it. So is it Kyrie like Christ? Like, is it? Because I used to call it Kyrie because I'm Catholic, and so I know the whole.
yeah, you get it. It's
But then everybody was calling it Kyrie, and I'm like, did Matt just screw this up or whatever? And so I started calling it that just because everybody else did. I thought I was just crazy for thinking it was the Latin word.
No, I'm listening to the fans, and they all want to call it Kyrie. So.
So you just started aping that yourself because of that?
Yeah, I just started aping everyone else. But
okay,
exactly.
Because Matt sees a follower.
Oh,
Hey, the fans
he
come
doesn't want
first.
his fans to feel stupid. That's what it was.
Yeah.
You're stupid, fans. Buy the book.
Yeah.
Sorry, Matt.
So getting back to
we're
Matt.
having a lot of fun with this. You can get a real Roman coin that I actually date and everything like that for you with the epic tier on the right. And I'm expanding my artistic repertoire. So if you like my style, but you want to see me do some weird, interesting new stuff, there's a lot of flashbacks that I do in different art styles for this.
I'm in particular psyched about this very panel. Having read the first two, seeing what leads up to this has me very intrigued.
What is that giant doing with his pinky?
I know. I got to redraw it.
I said the same
This has
thing.
been addressed on a previous
I
Low
just
Red
saw
stream.
that and I can't unseen it now. Oh no.
Okay, I wasn't
Yeah.
excited for that reason.
Sexy
But
camel action. Back now.
I know. That's my very next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to redraw that page.
Although what he's doing with this other camel is pretty awesome. So got it up in the
Yeah.
air. He's getting rid of
He's
the
about to
top.
fling it. Yeah.
So he's expressing the camel like Vicky does with dogs.
Oh,
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah. That one's for Vicky.
always bringing people together, John.
Mhm.
There will be blood.
freaking
Blood.
Said Vicky never.
I love these. Books 1 and 2 are some of my favorite Comicsgate books, guys. Honestly, like Matt has done such a great job.
Thanks.
This is just really exciting stuff.
Why do you have to
So-
qualify that with Comicsgate? Can't you just say it's one of your favorite books?
Well, I mean, I'm talking to Comicsgate, so they want to know it's Comicsgate.
Oh, I see.
You had to buy the book. I mean, if you would just say I'm Comicsgate real quick, you'd get some Shad bucks.
Pass.
That's all.
150 pages, which is quite a deal.
Heck
Incredible. Yeah. And
Yep,
another.
they're all graphic novels, colored, drawn, written by me, lettered by me. So you get a solo product.
one-man army.
Real ancient Roman coin.
And get his portrait commission as well. Some, original art from Matt. That's
We
amazing.
have there's a catapult tier as well, right? Or is it catapult stretch goal?
Yep, stretch goal. Yep. Make your own catapult.
Pixel magnets, coins, and Sega Genesis box for the mailer.
Yeah, do you like that? Yeah. Everyone really liked the books coming in the custom mailer for the Wild Tales last year's campaign. So I'm trying to keep that going with the retro game kind of ephemera idea with these boxes.
Oh, you got
so.
my boy RJ doing the shipping. Hey, RJ.
Yeah. Our
And-
good friend RJ. Yeah, he's helping with the drop shipment for internationals.
Getting a discount on the prices, 50% less than what you normally pay. $10 UK, 15 to EU.
That's
and
really good,
Australia.
actually.
Yeah. And like he's figured something out, but it's not anything that is prohibitive for anyone else to figure out. It's just that he's doing it and likes doing it and continues to. But like it's really kind of fascinating that not more people aren't jumping on, either working with him or figuring out, alternative drop shipment type ideas. But it's great. I mean, shipping for $15 or less anywhere in the world, it's really possible.
I'll talk to you about that off
How
air,
is that
'cause,
possible?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Unless you want to spill the beans.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you basically, and RJ will tell you this. It's not a secret. You individually pack all the shipments for a particular country.
Mhm.
You put the labels on them all, and then you put all those shipments in one big box that's mailed to a particular, post service, like a single destination in the UK, for instance. And then somebody shows up, he pays them $50 or something. He shows up, picks up that giant box, empties that box on the counter, and then all those individually wrapped boxes go out domestically inside the UK.
But you have to
So-
pay internal postage. You have to
Yeah,
pay
yeah.
UK postage.
It's
in
like a few
advance.
pounds per. So the 15 is like that's covering, that's spreading
So
the
there's
cost
basically a
of the giant
service that
box.
you like. So there's a service that takes these giant boxes and then slaps labels on all the lot boxes inside for domestic postage, and then, or what?
Well,
I
yeah,
guess,
you
right?
do that yourself, and
Oh, you
his
do?
service is that a guy just opens that big box and dumps it on the counter for it to go domestic.
Huh.
Yeah,
That
Interesting.
sounds complicated.
it's Well, I mean, there's a couple extra steps for sure, but yeah, it is cheaper.
Yeah, Dark Gift, get on this.
Yeah, this is totally a dark gift thing too. Like he could have a guy in the UK that does this. Anyone could do it.
I'm gonna ask Peter Gilmore to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, offer him $50 to show
There's
up
a
and
guy in Australia.
There's a guy in Australia who will do this. Will ship it all for you, and
Yeah.
do your fulfillment for you. He's been waiting.
that's
I'm
true.
excited.
You gonna tap into that?
I would
John?
love to have an Australian managed by shipment. That would be I'd love to see that happen.
We can send it to Risey, but
I don't know about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd use it to insulate his house.
Yeah.
All right. Kyrie 3. So pick that up.
Get it?
Thanks, Warren.
Sure. Twitless, would you like to promote anything?
I'm still working on logistical things and dealing with
Boring.
print file crap. I'm sharing my screen just to show that what I'm working on.
Okay.
But yeah, Omega Girl's going to fight a giant lizard guy with anime glasses.
Yes.
So, get excited for that.
Mm.
Classic superhero action, and, my inner child, essentially. So, and giant lizards, which, again, more of my inner child.
It's got a 20-pack on those abs.
Yeah, as you do.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks
Oh, they're
awesome.
scales, they're not muscles.
Very nice.
Sneak
Nice
Peek
color.
has a question.
Question for Mike. How many comics would it take to fully adapt Shad's novel, and will there be an omnibus?
Well, the idea is to do it in 4. Not entirely sure we'll need 4, or I don't know. Right now it's 4, and that's tentative. Will there be an omnibus? I imagine that someday, yeah, we'll omnibize it. I'm sure he'll want to do that and then slap a big fat leather cover on it.
Mhm.
Hey, there's Edwin Boyett in the chat.
Aloha,
Aloha. Aloha.
Greetings, Edwin. And yeah, with that, I guess we're going to close up. So thank you, everybody. It's a special stream. Really appreciate the advance review copy. That was very gracious to give us the opportunity. to
Glad
do
you
that.
guys all liked it, except Twitless, who can go to hell.
I didn't say I. Oh,
God, Twitless. Kick Twitless. Kick Twitless.
Get off this show.
Enough of that. All right, you can come back now.
oh, jeez.
Where's your redemption arc, Twitless? When does it begin?
I guess I don't get one.
Yeah.
My redemption arc is the freaking road trip.
He's got flat redemption. No arms.
And with that, everybody, thank you very much. And we'll see you all very soon. So have a good night.
Peace.
Peace.
Hello.